wanted to talk to you about climate change.
Yeah.
So there's a worldwide consensus of scientists who say that climate change is real and it's caused by greenhouse gas emissions. And in your platform, you deny that. So can you explain that position?
I don't deny that climate change is real. I'm not a climate denier. Yes, the climate is always changing, and it's a fact. It's a fact. What I'm saying is there's no climate emergency. There's no climate crisis. And you know, I don't want us to build policies on sentiment and panic. So for us, there's no. People are asking to change our way of life and to impose a tax on carbon. And I'm not hypocrite like Justin Trudeau and Andrew Scheer. If you believe in climate change and with their program, you must vote for Elizabeth May. Elizabeth May said, and the UN also, that you need to impose a tax of $300 a ton to be sure for the federal government to achieve the Paris Accord targets. Right now, the Trudeau government, it's a tax on carbon of $50 a ton. They won't be able to achieve the Paris Accord target. So they're lying to the population. Justin Trudeau is lying when he's crossing the country and saying, I will achieve my Paris Accord target. All the experts, the UN experts, are saying he won't. And same thing for Andrew Scheer. So I want to impose a carbon tax, but I will impose more regulation on businesses, and I will impose a tax on the big emitters. That's the same. So they won't be able to achieve the Paris Accord, and they won't save the planet because, as you know, our emission is only 1.8% of the global emission. So I'm telling the reality to Canadians. If you want to fight climate change, your provincial government can do that. And in Quebec, actually, the carbon tax won't apply in Quebec because they have a cap-and-trade system. The environment is a shared jurisdiction with provinces, and I respect the Constitution, and I'll let provinces deal with that. But for us, we won't sign the Paris Accord. We won't impose a carbon tax. We won't impose more regulation on businesses because we think that there's no climate crisis emergency right now. And it's a little bit bad that people are saying to the youth of today that if we don't do anything in 20 years or 15 years, that would be the end of the world. That's not responsible. And you know, every 10 or 20 years, the radical environmentalists are saying that. People know that, you know, there's a solution for the climate. And what I'm saying, it's the human activity. Human activity on this planet, it is not the main reason why the climate is changing. It can be one reason, but not the main one. And so that's a huge difference with us. That's the difference with us and the other political parties. So CO2, it's a gas that is it's not pollution. First of all, it's not pollution. It's very important. And it's a gas for life. It's a food for plants. And so what I'm saying that the human activity on this planet and the CO2, it is not the main reason why we have climate change. And a lot of scientists are saying, like Patrick Moore, former co-founder of Greenpeace, and a lot of scientists are saying there's other factors like the ocean, like the sun, like the volcanoes. And so all the studies are always focused on the CO2. But I hope that the scientists will do more studies, and it's all based on data and computer. So, you know, it depends on what you're putting in your computer for having the data at the end. So I want us to base our policies not on fear, not on panic, but not to trying to change our way of life with imposing. And we know that a carbon tax at the end won't change anything because as an economist, if you tax more at the pump, Canadians won't change their behavior. They won't, because there's no alternative that are competitive to the fossil fuel. There's no alternative. So when you increase the price at the pump, people won't change their behavior. It's only we're only grabbing more money from Canadians. So first of all, the others are not telling the truth that they will achieve the Paris Accord, Scheer and Justin Trudeau. And at the end, if you impose a tax on carbon, people won't change their behavior at the end. So that's not the solution.
So here, Maxime Bernier answers the question of the not the carbon tax, but the climate change idea, and it is a beautiful response to the question that he's asked. And his response was, I don't believe that there is a climate change emergency right now. And the idea that that it is very irresponsible. I'm not going to form policies based on fear and sentiment. So I agree with that statement. That is a very, very nice stance to take, because if you really study the environmental radicalists, let's say, so you can see that it really is a lot of fear mongering, and it doesn't take many people to start a mob. You know, I look at the climate change rally that happened in Calgary, and a lot of them were students who were skipping school, actually instructed to go to the rally by their teachers, which I thought was very responsible. But they were relishing the fact that they got to miss class and take the afternoon off so they could go to the climate rally. So I can say that the actual motivation for the people is maybe they don't agree 100% on the climate change, but they seem to look at what benefits them in the moment. And also it's what are we going to do about climate change? Is there anything that we can really fundamentally do about climate change? When Max pointed out that we're only 1.8% of the global emissions, that's true. If you really want to be responsible for the environment, you need to take a look at the emissions created by China. And who are putting up coal-fired plants every day, I think, every week. So because they need to accommodate for their growing population that's in need of electricity, of heat, and so on. And so Max points out a great point. And so let's go on with environmental extremism. There is a lot of the grouping that the power is based in fear mongering, and you'll see his answer here.
I
What
did.
did you think of it?
You know, she asking her, I want you to panic, I want you to feel my fears, and I think it's not responsible. And she's saying to our kids today, and a lot of them are anxious because of that. If you don't do anything in 5 years, it will be the end of. It's not responsible. It will be the end of the world. And I don't. I will always fight for that. I will always fight against that. Sorry, against that kind of speech, and it is not. We need to build public policies on science, on reason, on facts, and not on fear and panics. And they're asking us, and they don't want us to have a discussion because it's the climate emergency. You cannot debate climate emergency. Don't debate, and these are the solutions. We need to debate, and that's why I think it's important. Actually, 30% of Canadians are saying, we need to debate. There's no climate emergency, and I think the more we speak about it, people understand on the street what is the emergency. We have tornadoes. We always had tornadoes. We have flooding. We always had that, and we will in the future. So let's have a discussion about that emergency.
Do you want to go back? Yeah.
Sure. Ms. Bernier, when we're talking about Greta Thunberg,
Yeah.
she's a 16-year-old
Yeah.
girl with
Yeah.
autism.
Yeah.
And you sent out an 8-part Twitter
Yeah.
series
Yeah.
that called...
So we won't get into that in this video, but I feel very strongly that Maxime has an excellent point that the climate change crisis, if you will, even the word crisis, is designed to inspire fear in people and division. My friend's daughter, we were sitting at the kitchen table the other night, and so we were talking about the climate change crisis, and I said, well, what do you want to do about it, and what do you think can be done? And she says, well, we need to stop driving cars, and we need to find a way to be more conscious of the environmental impacts of petroleum, and we need to stop the oil sands, and so on. And so she went on at length, and I said, okay, if you were to implement that policy, where would we get our heat? And would you be willing to sacrifice the ability to go for transportation? Because you know that school buses and the transit system here in Calgary, they use diesel buses. They won't be able to pick you up and take you to school. So you'll have to walk to school each day in the cold, in minus 20 or minus 30 degree, depending on the day, you know. And so I went at it like that. And what I really don't like is that, like as Max pointed out, the climate emergency inspires fear. It's designed to inspire fear, and it's brilliant that he picked up on that, because it's a true statement. If you talk about climate change, I find that it's an extremely divisive subject. It's something that really, if you discuss it and you start to think about it, doesn't have much validity. It's something that is designed to inspire fear for the most part, for what I see. And you know, in this country, we've made great sacrifices personally already, in say in the province of Ontario, where you know, environmental extremism has gotten so great that they actually Ontario people, I believe, were paying heating bills of more than $1,000 a month, or something that they could not sustain, and they actually had to burn paper or burn wood or burn something for heat, because they couldn't afford to heat their homes any longer under the new carbon tax regime under the premier of that province. And so Doug Ford was actually elected because like, not only was the Ontario debt massive, but because a lot of people couldn't even afford to heat their homes anymore. It was just incredible. So all I can say is that Max's point is not, it is objective. It's a very, very good apolitical approach. And he's pointing out that the climate change crisis is not a crisis in this moment. Okay, 1.8% of carbon emissions in Canada is all we contribute worldwide. And you know, in addition to that, like the political parties, like the Conservatives and Liberals, especially Andrew Scheer and especially Justin Trudeau, won't be able to meet the Paris Accord targets at $300 per ton. That will just destroy us. It will impede all Canadians like to run, unless they found an alternative source to heat their homes. It will make it impossible for us to have our standard of living, our standard of life, and the ability to possess cars, to go to work, to heat our houses here in Canada is very necessary. We cannot do without heat, without cars, without electricity and so forth. There are so many things about our way of life that will be destroyed by this policy. And I would argue a humanistic approach that to take care of ourselves, of our well-being, is more important than climate change, or the climate change crisis, as it were. So in the next video, we're going to talk more about this interview, and I thank you for your time and attention, and I hope that you found Maxime Bernier's opinion as insightful as I did. He is the leader that we need right now. Thank you very much, and good night.